Welcome back. Russia may have given oligarchs a bad name, but other countries have them too. Private citizens who are unbelievably rich, unbelievably powerful, seemingly unaccountable to their fellow citizens. The U.S., in fact, has more of these people than any other country on earth. You see the numbers there. Tonight, we are kicking off a week-long series on the oligarchs of America, beginning with the world's richest individual, Elon Musk. For someone so famous, we don't really know a lot about him. Every so often we hear about a new relationship or a new Musk child being born, often with a very unusual name. But that's pretty much it. With a fortune topping $200 billion, Musk is not content to conquer electric cars or even space travel. He wants to own a big chunk of social media. I want to bring in two people who followed Elon Musk's career and in some cases had the chance to even work with him. Dr. Nolan Higdon is an author and university lecturer at Merrill College and in the education department at the University of California, Santa Cruz. He specializes in history and media studies and is the author of the book, The Anatomy of Fake News. And Joe Justice is the founder of Team Wikispeed, the first automobile manufacturer to accept Bitcoin. He actually joined Tesla back in 2020. Dr. Higdon, I want to start with you. We've been calling Elon Musk an oligarch tonight. We're starting our series off with him tonight. Is that fair? Is Elon Musk an oligarch?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on the program, Brian. Yeah, I think oligarch is an accurate term to describe Elon Musk. I mean, an oligarch is a wealthy person with great political influence, and that is certainly Musk. As to the, concern, some people are sort of concerned or frightened by the term. I think, you should be scared by the term. Scholars have long pointed out for at least the last decade that the United States increasingly resembles, if not outright acts like an oligarchy. So I think calling him an oligarch and the fears about the term are well-founded.
Yeah, the power they have. I mean, you think about Musk, he's now one of the only ways that we get to space is his company that he's in control of. Joe, you worked for Musk. I'm fascinated by the guy. What's it like working with him? What is he like one-on-one?
Before I worked with Elon, I worked with Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. So interestingly, I do get to compare the three to an extent. Elon is much faster, much faster. He truly seems driven for making the world a better place, expanding the light of consciousness out among the stars, bringing plants, animals, and people to all planets. That's really different than the level of ambition that Bezos or Bill Gates were displaying at the time that I had a chance to collaborate with either of them or work in their companies. Elon focuses on speed more than anyone I've ever met or even heard of. And it's speed of innovation. The pace of innovation is the only thing that matters in the long run. And as a result, it's really intense working with Elon.
Yeah, I've heard, Joe, that he is actually accessible to his employees, that you can actually get in touch with him. I mean, he's got so many employees now, it's sort of hard to believe, but is that really true?
Elon sleeps in the factory in a sleeping bag. Elon's there. And Elon spends 12 or more hours a day building product, like physically, like loading metal into robots, working on CAD and CAM in groups, doing group work, mob development, software development, unloading trucks. Elon is physically present. Now, it depends what you're doing and what Elon's doing. Elon might be at SpaceX for a long period of time, if that's the primary bottleneck to expanding the light of consciousness among the stars. Or Elon might be working with you, depending on what you're doing and where. So I would say Elon's accessible if you're also working on the most important thing, then Elon's there. But you can always email or chat or message to Elon or walk over.
Wait, hold on a second, Joe. You're telling me you can email Elon if you work for Elon, if you're just a worker bee, let's say at Tesla, you're telling me you can email him? You can actually call him?
So in your first 4 hours as an employee, you're told explicitly, you can talk to anyone, you can talk to Elon, and if anyone prevents you from talking to Elon, Elon then added this after, the person who prevented you from talking to Elon would be fired immediately.
Wow, fascinating, just fascinating. Dr. Higdon, so Musk owns Tesla, he owns SpaceX, which I'm fascinated with the progress that they've made in a short amount of time is insane. He's got so much power. Now he's wants to buy Twitter, and he's close. And Twitter is a way that many of us communicate and that world leaders communicate and put their messages out. If this goes through and he gets Twitter, do you think it's too much power, Dr. Higdon?
Yeah, I think it is. It is way too much power. There is a long history in Silicon Valley of wrapping, basic profit motives in like good language, right? Or positivist language. So saying things like you want to like get, the consciousness of the stars or something like that. But really it's just a for-profit venture. I think of like Facebook trying to deliver democracy to the world and then fragmenting the global society worse than ever, or Elizabeth Holmes trying to put a biolab in a box and it ends up being just a grift. So I am always sort of cautious of thinking what their actual motives are. Now, I can't get in the mind of Elon Musk, but historically, wealthy individuals have bought media platforms to manufacture consent from the public for their economic and political interests. I mean, you can think of like William Randolph Hearst in the early 20th century, or Jeff Bezos and Sheldon Adelson, Rupert Murdoch more recently. There's a long history in the United States. This is what wealthy people do. They buy platforms of communication as a way to manufacture consent for their policy goals. And given Elon's wealth, I think there is a real threat to democracy when he controls something like Twitter.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to think about. Speaking of Twitter, Joe, just a personal question I have. Maybe you'd have some insight on this. I follow Elon, and his tweets can be so crazy sometimes. Sometimes they seem unhinged. They're in the middle of the night. He will comment and quote tweet, people that he doesn't even know that don't have a lot of followers. It seems so genuine, and I find myself wondering, is it really him just laying in his bed tweeting? Do you think he has does he have a team of people actually pumping these tweets out, or is this actually him?
Elon actually appears, I wasn't leaning over Elon's shoulder looking at Elon's phone as he tweeted, but Elon appears to be actually responsible and accountable for Elon's own tweets. But to put that in perspective, that's very unusual for high net worth people. Typically, it's a communication team and their tweets are scheduled weeks or months in advance and brokered in deals. Who's going to retweet who, and there's a financial transaction or an agreement. I did not see anything like that in Tesla, or even hint of that. It does actually appear to be Elon, mostly from the bathroom, sending tweets.
Do you think, Joe, a lot of skeptics say he uses his tweets, especially in the middle of this Twitter deal, to try to influence things, to influence the market. Do you think that's what's going on, Joe?
Elon currently is building a case very publicly for the Security and Exchange Commission to be, from Elon's perspective, less manipulated by high net worth groups. Tesla got a really bad deal from the SEC. Elon Musk tweeted funding secured, and possibly it was, but Elon was forced to change title at the company, pay a lot of money back. And Elon has been building a case publicly saying the SEC is not acting in a fair and balanced way. Elon's acquisition of Twitter could be, and I believe, part of that case, saying Twitter is not disclosing how many users are robots and not actual robots, after Elon made a binding purchasing agreement, which would make Twitter's lack of honesty much more egregious than Tesla's. And it's very
Joe, those bots are out there. Those bots are out there. You'll see people with, 10 million followers that barely get any retweets. The bots are out there. I think there's no question about that. Dr. Higdon, we only have a little bit of time left, but I want to ask you real quick. It seems like when Elon was just running Tesla, everyone loved him. They loved the cars. SpaceX, oh my gosh, the rockets land themselves. We love Elon Musk. Then he goes to buy Twitter, and it suddenly becomes very, very political. He becomes a little more outspoken about politics, and all of a sudden he's got all these haters. How do you explain that?
Well, I can't explain all the details of that, but I will say that we do live in like a very hyper partisan time. We don't have a lot of nuance or context in our culture. So that's one reason. But I do think there is something quite sick, if not corrosive, about the way we kind of follow around these billionaires and we get excited about their new SpaceX project or whether or not they're going to buy Twitter, where more important questions about, why don't we have democratic oversight or accountability over the supposed public square? Like, how come the public doesn't make the community standards for their community and things like that? I think those would be more important questions for us to be asking than kind of, what Elon's tweet means.
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's a very fair point, Dr. Higdon. I think there is this fascination with these guys, but that is a fair point, big picture. And that's the reason we want to do the series this week overall. I mean, just to show the power that these guys and men and women have. Dr. Nolan Higdon and Joe Justice, thank you both for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it.
Honored to be here. Thank you.